Did miserable Big Ten hater and SEC lover Paul Finebaum admit that the Big Ten is going to win their third straight college football national championship? Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, here's an idea. Hit that free subscribe button down below. That helps us. Plus, you'll never miss a single episode that way. And if you could share, like, and follow, that helps us out too. Did you know you can hype our video on YouTube as well? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. So Paul Finebaum is having a miserable 3 years watching the Big Ten dominate. Ryan Day hates the new portal proposal. We'll look at that, plus two Heisman hopefuls from Washington and Illinois you need to know about, and our Big Ten classics all on the way for the weekend. But ESPN talking head Paul Finebaum, he admits that he cannot argue that the Big Ten might win its third straight national championship. Big Ten fans like us, we can't argue with it either. He said that he was admittedly going to lose his SEC card for saying this. He said you can't argue where the Big Ten is right now. He said the conference is in great shape. And then he said, yeah, they're fine. They're more than fine. They're dominating the top of the rankings. They've got the last two national championships. So let's take a moment and poke the bear. Poke them while they're down. For years, Paul Finebaum and all of his arrogant SEC minions who follow him, they fail to acknowledge that there is good football, or any football for that matter, outside of the SEC. They all eat, live, and breathe SEC football. We eat, live, and breathe Big Ten football, but we acknowledge that there's a world of college football out there other than us. We at least acknowledge it. So as much as they love the SEC, they're just absolutely apoplectic that the Big Ten of all conferences is just dominating the college football landscape, capped off by back-to-back national championships with Michigan and Ohio State. And sadly for them, the chances that the Big Ten pulls off a three-peat is a real possibility. And we're very hopeful of that here on Locked On Big Ten. So the question is, who's it going to be? Will Ohio State go back-to-back? I mean, they sure looked impressive in weeks 1 and 2. They got a win over the former number one team in the country, Texas. Now, Ohio State is number one. And they blew over Grambling with a 70-0 score. Everything's rolling at that point. It was as expected, if you will, but it just proved that they're firing on all cylinders and that the Buckeyes are the real deal again. And, that's despite losing a lot of players of the NFL from last year's national championship team. So they reloaded. Bonnie seems to like the Oregon Ducks, however. They seem to have gotten his attention. Everybody else, when they pummeled Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State 69-3, I think everybody expected a big Oregon win, but not that big, right? Finey also said that the Ducks beatdown was so bad they may have ended Oklahoma State coach Mike Gundy's career. He is on the hot seat, and if things don't go well and he gets beat by huge scores like this, he might be done. But that's how things are in Stillwater right now. And of course, there's the Penn State championship hopes. And they may have the most complete roster of anybody in the Big Ten from top to bottom. They have the most experienced quarterback in the country with Drew Aller. They got another cupcake this weekend with Villanova. And then they got the big one after that. It's the whiteout against the Oregon Ducks, of all things. So we're going to be able to sort things out fairly early as far as who is who here before the month of September expires. So we're looking forward to that. And it'll help us sort out not only the top of the Big Ten, but the top of the national rankings as well. For the past 2 years, 16 teams have made the college football playoffs, 4 2 years ago and 12 teams last year. And 6 of those 16 teams have come from the Big Ten, more than any other conference. They just continue to roll with the upper echelon of college football. And a current glance at the top 25 right now, say what you will about polls, it highlights the Big Ten's dominance. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon make up 3 of the top 4 spots. Illinois cracked the top 10. Indiana and Michigan round out the top 25. 14 Big Ten teams are still undefeated as of now. And by the way, ESPN as a whole is only predicting 3 Big Ten teams make the playoffs. So look, they're either crazy or ignorant because they don't think 4 is getting in. But keep in mind, they lean SEC anyway. They're in the Finebaum camp. That's why next week's showdown between Illinois and Indiana is so important, because the winner of that game will have the inside track, I think, to getting the 4th playoff spot out of the Big Ten teams in the college football playoffs. That's what I think. The loser's going to have a tougher scenario as well. So, by the way, back to the ESPN note where they only think 3 Big Ten teams get in the college football playoffs. Every scenario they have, there's 1 Big Ten team in the championship game. So even they have acknowledged, the Big Ten might be in line for a 3rd straight championship. So I would love your comments on that. Hit us up here on YouTube as well. Now, I want to explain to you what's going on this weekend. If you're new here, we're here every day. Audio on Apple or Spotify, the video on YouTube. But we do go live on YouTube every weekend. We pick the biggest game on the schedule, and then we go live. Like, there were obvious big games on the schedule the first 2 weeks when we had Texas at Ohio State, and then we had Michigan at Oklahoma. We went live after those games. It was great. And the cool thing about going live is you get my immediate, unfiltered opinion of the game, and I get yours too. Live comments, real-time comments back and forth on YouTube. So we look forward to that. We always go live. This weekend, interesting games, interesting choices to make to go pick a game to go live. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to shoot for around 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific to go live. We're going to keep an eye on that Wisconsin-Alabama game on ABC. When that finishes up, we're going to go live. We may have to massage that time just a little bit because we're also going to be watching Oregon at Northwestern. That is the big noon game on Fox. But basically, we'll use Alabama and Wisconsin as our barometer. And hey, who knows about that game? Alabama may be looking ahead to Georgia. Who knows? Wisconsin has struggled for 6 quarters. Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee State before pulling away against Middle Tennessee State. So I'm going to be interested to see how that team. If one thing I could say about Wisconsin is their defense is pretty good. So we'll check that out. Michigan has also got an early game against Central Michigan. That'll be winding down about that time. Nebraska and Maryland will have their respective games winding down about that. So there's 5 Big Ten teams that kick off around noon on Saturday. And when they all come to an end, we'll recap them all. Again, focusing on Wisconsin and Alabama and preview the upcoming games for the rest of the day. That's what we're going to do this weekend. So check us out live right after Wisconsin at Alabama. Mark your calendars for that. In the meantime, if you are new, hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. And we also ask you if you could share, follow, and like. Look, if you're a Big Ten fan, I know you know other Big Ten people. Share this podcast with them. They might not know that we're out here every day. It's the most unique Big Ten podcast in the world. So why is Ryan Day unhappy? He's kind of a little bit always unhappy, isn't he? We'll talk about that coming up in just a minute. Also, some real Big Ten Heisman hype, both at Washington and Illinois, believe it or not. And we've got a quarterback injury update at Oregon. Plus, later on, our Big Ten classics for the weekend. So check all that out. It's coming up here in just a minute on Locked On Big Ten. DoorDash, keep your weekend streak alive with DoorDash. That's right. And we're going to look and crown this past week's MVP. I'm going to go with Jonah Coleman 2 weeks in a row. 5 touchdowns on 15 touches. That's the quarterback at Washington. He delivered. DoorDash delivers. And just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players, they deliver when it matters most. So let's break it down. Again, Jonah Coleman, 177 yards first week, week 2, 5 touchdowns on 15 carries. That's a pretty good average. So when the pressure's on, no hesitation, no delay, he's been able to roll. And just like Jonah Coleman for Washington, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. So with DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday that you order. So stack them all up every Saturday. Stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe and then share and follow as well. Don't forget our website, talkbig10.com as well. Podcast and Big Ten merchandise right there. All right, we'll get to the Heisman hype at Washington and Illinois in a moment. One of the benefits of the Oregon Ducks, however, winning these games by big margins lately is everybody gets to play. And that's what you should do in these games. You get a sizable, comfortable lead. You don't want to risk injury to your starters. You want to give other guys playing time because you may not during other critical games. Oregon was able to play 70 players over these last 2 weeks. 70 players have gotten on the field. And Ducks backup quarterback Austin Novosad is not one of them. He did not see action on Saturday, at least. He did week 1, but not week 2. In the win over Oklahoma State. 66-point win. He had an undisclosed injury, and he was listed as questionable before the game, and then they decided not to play him. Now, Dan Lanning spoke this week at his press conference, and he gave a positive update. He goes, look, it was just precautionary. We're going to need him. He's our guy. And his lat was bothering him. So they said, look, let's just hold him out a little while. Since then, he's been practicing. He's been participating in practice. Luke Moga got some backup duty in the game this past weekend against Oklahoma State. So that was all good. And, of course, Dante Moore has looked fantastic, the starter at quarterback, throwing for 5 touchdowns and no interceptions so far this year. All right, now I have some transfer portal news. So there's a proposal out there. As you know, we have the transfer portal that's over, like as soon as the season's over. December, you can enter the portal throughout the month of December, basically. There's another one in April, around the time of spring ball. Well, this new proposal out there is trying to simplify things. So they want to take the December transfer portal, push it to January, and squish it down to 10 days. So it's just very narrow. So we're not like left hanging for long periods of time, whether kids are leaving you or whether kids are coming in, all that kind of stuff. So basically, so everybody could get on with their lives. And this proposal would eliminate the spring transfer portal. Now, I'm in favor of this, like this proposal right here. Let's just move it to January. Let's just have one portal. If we're going to pretend that we're still doing the facade of the student athlete, it's right in between semesters, so it's easy to transfer into your new school. And then we get rid of the spring one, and that way coaches know what they have during spring ball, they'll know what they have going into the summer, all that kind of stuff. That's what I think we should do. However, Ryan Day hates the idea. He hates the idea of moving to January for 10 days because, keep in mind from his perspective, he says, look, what about those of us that are in the middle of a playoff run? Now we got to worry about recruiting for 10 days. We're trying to get ready for, I don't know, Georgia in a playoff game. So he said, how are we going to have time to do all that? And then how are the kids going to make decisions? You're going to have a kid, you may be having a team that's going to like the semifinals, Final Four. But we're in the transfer portal, and he wants to transfer out. And because he got more money somewhere else or more playing time or whatever, and he may go, well, I know my team's got a chance of winning a national championship, but I got to go. This happened to Bo Perbulo, the backup quarterback at Penn State last year. So there are some problems with it, but the proposal is out there. I wanted to make you aware of it as well. All right, let's switch gears just a little bit here. It's never too early to talk about the Heisman race. I mean, after all, we spent half the summer talking about it and speculating as well. A lot of Arch Manning talk, all that kind of stuff. I want to discuss Washington running back Jonah Coleman and Illinois wide receiver Hank Beatty. Okay. All summer long, it was Arch Manning this, Arch Manning that, ad nauseum. And that's shelved for now after his performance by Ohio State and Ohio State defense shutting him down. Speaking of the Buckeyes, wide receiver Jeremiah Smith has always been on the short list, top 4. And he certainly deserves that attention and still does. You know, Clemson's Cade Klubnik was on the list for a while. Then they almost lost to Troy, I think it was. So since Washington plays late on the West Coast, I would argue that many of you maybe don't see Jonah Coleman play a lot in the eastern half of the country. But I'll also argue that if the Heisman Trophy vote were today, and the voters were truly up to speed on performance and stats, Washington's Jonah Coleman should win the Heisman hands down right now. Is the most outstanding player in the country after just 2 weeks. You know, in the Huskies season opener versus Colorado State, Huskies won that 38-21. He rushed 24 times for 177 yards and a couple of touchdowns. His average, 7.4 yards per carry. He also made a 22-yard catch. And he returned a kick 26 yards. I mean, that's Heisman stuff right there. Let's go to week 2. The Huskies' week 2 win over UC Davis, 70-10. He scored 5 touchdowns on 15 carries. 1 of every 3 touches he scored. Now, look, I get it. It's UC Davis. They're not a very powerful school. You everydayers know I always talk about this all the time. Yeah, inevitably there's going to be cupcakes on the schedule. But you should blow out those cupcakes. Like if you don't, like if you only win, I don't know, 35-20, you might have a problem. That might signify a problem moving forward. If you blow them out, sometimes they're bad for college football. I admit it, but at least shows you can on all cylinders. You can click. You're the real deal. So I think it's a sign that Washington is the real deal, and I think that these rushing events by Jonah Coleman are real. So, again, averaging 7.4 yards per carry both games, and he caught another 24-yard pass against UC Davis. So the 7.4 yard per carry average is interesting. We'll see what he can maintain moving forward when the competition does get tougher. But last year's Heisman runner-up, Ashton Jeanty, that's a better average than he had. It is. So, by the way, the Huskies are on bye this week. They play local rival Washington State coming up. And then Coleman will be tested again against perhaps the best defense in the country when number 1 Ohio State comes out to Husky Stadium. So we'll see if he has a big game there against Ohio State, then I think he will start getting some national attention, and maybe people will jump on the Jonah Coleman bandwagon for a possible Heisman candidate. And we'll see how that goes. He's not the only Big Ten candidate that people should be paying attention to. I'm giving you an early start on this. If these guys continue, their names are going to come out nationally for sure. But have you seen Illinois wide receiver Hank Beatty? We've talked about him a lot here already. In Illinois' season opening 52-3 win over Western Illinois, Beatty returned a punt, 69 yards for a touchdown. He totaled 133 yards in punt return yardage that day. That broke the great Red Grange's 102-year-old record. In addition to that, he had 5 catches for 108 yards. For an encore at week 2 at Duke, Fighting Illini had a 45-19 win there on the road at Duke. 8 more catches, 128 yards, and rushed another time for 25 yards. He's a triple threat guy. Now, this week's game is against Western Michigan, so we'll see what happens. But then Beatty will have the national spotlight on him a week from Saturday when Illinois has a primetime nationally televised game, Big Ten on NBC Saturday night at Indiana, where the winner of that game will be on track for a playoff run. The loser may have too big of a hole to dig out. It's a huge game between 2 ranked teams in the Big Ten, both, I think, fighting for that 4th playoff spot from the Big Ten, assuming they get 4. Would love to hear from Husky fans. Would love to hear from Illinois fans. Are your guys getting enough tension nationally? You get enough tension here. We're talking about it, but would love your thoughts on those 2 guys. And anybody else I may be forgetting in the Big Ten. Hit us up with a comment there. Coming up, we're going to do our Big Ten Classics. We have a feature at the end of every podcast. Mondays are top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Tuesdays, we do Tuesday tweets on X. Wednesdays, we power rank stuff. Go back yesterday and check out yesterday's podcast in case you missed it for a second. Listen to see how we ranked them 1 through 18 and where your team is. We have no affiliation with the Big Ten Network, but on Thursdays, we do Big Ten Classics and Big Ten Live action. On the weekend, we take a look at the schedule. I mean, we have the same things and interest in the same things. We're just not affiliated with them, but we'll highlight some Big Ten Classics, some Big Ten and 60 games that they squish down into an hour. And then what games are live. I believe there's a triple header this weekend on Saturday of Big Ten action. And then tomorrow, our bold predictions, our pigskin picks. Do that every Friday throughout the season. All that's coming up right here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. Mazda moves you, does more than just simply move. Mazda is finesse, it's beauty, it's style. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, from footwork to breath work. Athletes sweat out all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention on how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail with the metallic accents available and the Napa leather upholstery as well. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but everyday drives. From the metallic accents, the nice looking stuff on the outside, the smooth stuff on the inside, smooth handling, great controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. If you like the excitement of games, and I know you do, and they can be more exciting with FanDuel, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the next kickoff with this can't-miss offer right now. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets across the app. Player props, futures, point spreads, money line, parlays, totals, all of it. Just follow along on the app. It is so easy to use. Paybacks are quick and easy if you win. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. And it is time for our featured Big Ten Classics. And, of course, our live action. And we'll let you know what the schedule is on Saturday. We don't do everything on their schedule. We just highlight some things you'd be interested in. If you're audio only, for example, on Apple or Spotify, we'll tell you what we're putting up on the screen. Just basically a schedule. We'll start off with Friday, September 12th. These are all Eastern times. And obviously, if you're video, you can see this. But we'll start off at 11 o'clock on Friday. They have one of their Big Ten football in 60s on the Big Ten Network, where they edit from snap to snap every play. You can watch an entire game in 60 minutes. It's the Middle Tennessee State game at Wisconsin from Saturday. This was 14-10 in the third quarter before the Badgers broke it open. Danny O'Neal, the backup quarterback, coming in. Billy Edwards Jr. is hurt. Threw for 283 yards and 3 touchdowns to help the Badgers win this game 42-10 and break open the close game. And now Wisconsin. That was their last game before their big game down at Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. Let's pick up the action at 4 o'clock. Another Big Ten football in 60, the Georgia Southern game at USC. Jaden Maeva passing for 412 yards and 4 touchdowns in the Trojans' 59-20 win over the Eagles. One note of concern. USC's defense gave up 377 yards and 20 points to Georgia Southern. Now they go on the road. Every time they traveled east last year, they lost. They lost at Minnesota. They lost at Michigan. They lost at Maryland. They're going east to West Lafayette. Hold your breath, Trojans fans. Purdue only won 1 game last year. They're 2-0 already this year. Just don't take them for granted. 6 o'clock. There's the Big Ten live football pregame show because we have Friday Night Lights on the Big Ten Network. 2 games, as a matter of fact. Big Ten football, Indiana State at Indiana. Tune in early. Again, it's 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. I believe Indiana's about a 48.5-point favorite in this game. And then at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, we go out west to the Rose Bowl, New Mexico at UCLA. UCLA is really struggling as of late. Watch Nico Iamaleava, quarterback the UCLA Bruins in this game. That's at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. All right, let's mosey on over to Saturday's schedule. The Big Ten Network starts it off with their Big Ten Tailgate show. They're going to be from Ann Arbor with all their personalities, with interviews and features and guests and analysis from Michigan. And then that goes into their 11:30 Big Ten Countdown to Kickoff show where they really get it dialed in. And at the game they're going to air, they got 3 games. It's a triple header on Saturday. They started off with Central Michigan at the Big House, 12 noon Eastern time. And, of course, Sharon Moore begins his suspension on this day, so you will not see him. At 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. Youngstown State at Michigan State. Michigan State coming off that huge double overtime win over Boston College last week. That was good. That was good for them to move the ball forward. And at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, UMass at Iowa. Tune in, maybe watch some history. If KIRK Ferentz and his squad wins that game, that'll be win number 206 for him. That will break Woody Hayes' mark of 205 for the most wins in the Big Ten. Woody Hayes, the legendary coach at Ohio State back in the day. So KIRK Ferentz can hit that mark here. And then we're on to Sunday, and a bunch of things I want to tell you about. At 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific, they have the final drive. It's a replay from the night before, all the highlights in case you missed everything on Saturday. You get to catch up there. They will replay that numerous times throughout the day with all the highlights and action. At noon, they've got one of their Big Ten football and 60s that they will have all day. Some they've scheduled, some they haven't. But I know the one at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, is going to be a replay edit, snap to snap in 60 minutes of the Oregon game at Northwestern on campus in their little makeshift stadium on the shores of Lake Michigan until their football stadium, is the real one, is built. And they'll replay that at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, if you want to jump on that. And then at 7 o'clock, another Big Ten football and 60, USC at Purdue. All right, we talked up the game. We'll see how it turns out. And if you want to watch it in 60 minutes or less on the repeat, if you're need a little break from some NFL football, do that at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific out on the West Coast. All right, so there you have it. Our Big Ten classics and live action that you should pay attention to going into the weekend. Don't forget, we have the latest news on all 18 Big Ten teams, and whether it's video on YouTube or audio on Apple or Spotify, we're the most unique Big Ten podcast in the country. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a single episode. And if you could share that little share arrow, share this podcast with some friends. Because again, I know if you're a Big Ten fan, you know other Big Ten people that might not know we're out here. And for you, hey, after this, check out a second listen. Check out yesterday's podcast as well. We had our power rankings yesterday, if you want to check that out as well for a second listen. Interact with us at Twitter or X at TalkBig10 and also our website, TalkBig10 10.com, for all of our podcasts. They all go there. And we also have links to your favorite schools of the Big Ten where you can buy great deals on your school merchandise, shirts, pennants, T-shirts, hats, Big Ten stuff right there. Also, another big moment for Locked On I want to share with you. College football fans out there, Locked On and Fire TV present the College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12. He anchors it. Conversations with two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, and also former college star Jesse Holley, and several of our Locked On local experts to bring you all the insight to what's going on with your favorite team. College football preview only Locked On can do. Catch the College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season with Locked On and Fire TV. That'll do it for us. I can't believe it's Friday tomorrow already. So 2 Big Ten games tomorrow. We'll preview those a little bit, and we'll have our pigskin picks as well for the weekend, as we love to go on the record. All that coming up tomorrow. Thanks for joining us here today on Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman.